Candidate joins us in studio right now. This is for California's 15th Congressional District. Aisha Wahab, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Very excited to have you here. And so I actually had not known that Eric Swalwell was not actually maintaining his seat, that he was going to be running again. I figured, he's running for president now. But it's still a long way off, and you never know what's going to happen. But you are now you're competing for the spot in that open seat. Tell me about how you made the decision to run.
Honestly, it starts from home. I'm a current Hayward City Council member, and I live in Hayward. I live in the district, and I take a look at my father every morning when I leave to work, and he has healthcare concerns. He just recently had a kidney transplant. My sister, on the other hand, sleeps on my living room floor. And the issues that matter to me and my family are very apparent, from housing to well-paying jobs to our future. So my sister has a master's in social work and works as a social worker full-time. And she has a union job. And the mere fact that she sleeps on my living room floor speaks volumes to our concerns. So for me, I genuinely feel like we can't wait for our issues to be addressed in Congress. We can't wait for everybody to take a look and say, okay, these are the actual issues that matter to people: housing, jobs, healthcare. And I see it every single day when I wake up. So that is the reason why I said, you know what? Sometimes when a door closes and another opens, and to me, this is the greatest opportunity. I think that we need to reinvest in the American dream, and that's very, very important to me.
Yeah, and it's an interesting opportunity, sort of a consequence of this very odd presidential primary process we have right now, where so many people are running.
Yeah.
Where Swalwell is one of the people that had been talked about, but I don't think he wouldn't have run back in 2016. But now the doors are open, many people are running, and it creates opportunities for other candidates. Your current position in the Hayward City Council, is that your first
elected office? Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get involved? I'm always curious about that, because you're obviously quite young.
Yes, and the honest truth is that my parents fled Afghanistan from the Soviet occupation and tried to pursue their American dream in the United States. And I was born in New York City, and I was very lucky, but my parents never were able to fulfill that American dream. Tragedy struck my family. Both my sister and I ended up in foster care. And what ended up happening is that when you're in foster care and you go through public education and you go through the different group homes and eventually get adopted, you have a wider sense of what community means. And I genuinely mean that. You're exposed to different cultures, different religions, different languages, and you realize what's important to people. And at the end of the day, the same things are important to all people, right? And the more I volunteered, the more I spent my time working and trying to, work on myself too. I learned that policy is made by a lot of people who may be a little out of touch with what's really happening to people's lives. And
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, right. And hence why, when the economic downturn happened, my family, who had a small business, their business tanked and our homes were foreclosed and banks were bailed out. And I always say twice, because they also kept the foreclosures and the short sales, right? While millions of Americans were still struggling. Today, we are nowhere near where we were prior to the economic downturn, and I see that in my family, and I know that that's truth for my friends and my neighbors and folks that I talk to. So for me, it was just getting more involved as to what are the priority issues, right? So I worked on with different nonprofits. I worked on community issues. I'm an organizer by heart, and when I saw that housing was still not being addressed in my local city, I said, okay, I'm going to run for city council and just literally talk about housing at all income levels. And I think that was a priority, and I've already been pushing a lot of things through, including tenant protections and things that happen for renters. Rent is very different than what it was, 20 years ago when, half of my colleagues talk about when they rented. So, we pay for our own parking space, we pay our utilities, we pay our insurance. So it's getting crazy, and I personally think that the average American resident is getting choked out by so many different things that we have to consider. So that is really why I'm very passionate about the issues that affect us.
And so this district in particular, tell me about it. How blue is it? How do the people in the region, were they generally happy with Swalwell's representation of them up until recently?
I think that, people were happy with elected officials in general until about 2016, right? That's when the world, came crashing down, if you will. And I think that Swalwell has served. He beat an incumbent that was sitting there for a very long time, Congressmember Pete Stark, and he took a chance on himself and he pursued it. And he also ran for that seat within a year of him being elected to Dublin City Council. So it's a very parallel story, if you will. But I think that there's a lot more we can do, because personally, I can't wait for my issues to be addressed. And that's, from student debt to homelessness. The mere fact that even seniors in our district, it's a blue district. It's one of the bluest in the regions. And, when we talk about progressive, we are probably as progressive as you can imagine. So the national rhetoric about progressive activists is normal to us. It's like everyday conversation. It's actually the standard, if you will. But in our district, we are eclipsed by San Francisco and the Silicon Valley. So we are struggling, and we're in the Bay Area, right? So like I said, I got very lucky in my life, but at the same time, we can't ask an entire district and an entire generation to get lucky on the issues that matter to them. We really need proactive, progressive change, and that comes from the top down, the way that it's been working. So those are some of the concerns that I think everyone in our district has, from Medicare for all to the student debt crisis to housing. It is ridiculous that these are the most basic things that any human being needs, and nobody's really delivering.
Do you, we've talked about a lot of these issues. Do you think that since the midterm elections, some of the conversation coming out of the House, some of the conversation coming out of some of the presidential candidates, is it moving in the direction you would like? And if you get into office, who do you look forward to working with on some of these issues?
I'm open to working with anybody and everybody. I really just want to focus on the issue and the issue at hand. And, I'm gonna be honest, my father is like an old school Ronald Reagan Republican, right? Yet he voted Obama, he voted Clinton. He's very interested in Bernie right now, right? So you can have those conversations based on the issue at hand. Prior to President Trump's election, I think people thought it was fine. We were moving in the right direction. We needed a little bit more time, but right now we need drastic change. And so I'm a disruptor. And I really appreciate everybody else that's disrupting the narrative of the conversation, because as much as I feel like the pendulum's swung right, it's going to swing that much harder to the left now. And that's really what we're seeing today.
Okay. So for people who might want to get involved possibly with your campaign, follow along, do you have a website? Do you have something you'd like to plug that people can?
Yes, and I appreciate this plug. So AishaWahab.com, AISHAWAHAB.com. You can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up to be kind of a part of the campaign. You can donate. I really think small dollar donations work. Accepting zero corporate funds. I definitely want people to get involved, and this is important to definitely engage younger folks, voices that have never been heard before, women of color. And this seat, to me, it's never been held by a woman. It's never been held by a woman of color. So we definitely need that to change, especially in the Bay Area, right? It's about damn time, right?
Yeah. Well, Aisha, thank you so much for joining us.
It's
great getting a chance to talk to you. Hopefully we'll be able to talk more as the campaign proceeds.
Definitely, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we got more for you after this.